Well, I'm back. This is another Saturday among all the other Saturdays, among the future upcoming Saturdays until this whole thing's all over. So this morning, I'm actually not going to take a very long time, even though these devotionals really haven't been much longer than 10 minutes. This might be considerably shorter. But I want to just kind of give you a reminder of what basically our lives here are really all about. You see, everything is spiritual. Everything. There aren't different categories in life in terms of, well, this is spiritual versus this is just normal. No, everything is spiritual. And if you remember, several months ago, I actually did a message to most of you from Ephesians chapter 6, where Paul says, our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Now, he said this 2,000 years ago. And here we are in the year 2020, and we still wrestle with this idea that everything is spiritual. We wrestle with leading dichotomous lives where I have my God life on the one hand and my regular life on the other, my church life on the one hand and my quote unquote real life on the other. Well, this dichotomy is not an accident. You think Satan never realized that, hey, if I could throw them into some kind of confusion about what's real and what's not, maybe I could use that to my advantage. Yeah, I'm thinking he thought of that pretty quick. Now, I want to go all the way back to the beginning real quick, just to share a brief thought with you, and then I'll leave you. All the way back at the beginning, when God creates mankind, keep in mind that Satan, according to Ezekiel 28, and this may be true and it might not be, but according to Ezekiel 28, Satan was a guardian cherub. That's right. Satan, this king of evil, if you will, used to be a cherubim in the courts of heaven. Satan was this guardian cherub whose heart grew too proud, who developed this arrogance, who basically wanted to be God, and he was cast out. And where was he cast out, you asked? Here. He's cast out here only to see God create these beings in whom he planted his own image. Now, how bad would that burn inside of Satan, who once used to be gorgeous, adorned with precious jewels, probably pretty cute, only to have God create these beings who are actually imbued with his image. I don't think that you and I have a real good appreciation for how much Satan in the darkness hates us. I mean, hates us. And it's not the kind of hate that is, I guess, easy to deal with. It's not the kind of hate that has somebody come up to you and just start beating on you. No, this is a lot more sinister. You see, you know full well in Genesis chapter 3 that Eve fell. She fell because Satan just kind of planted a seed in her head that if she ate that fruit, she'd be more like God. Was that true? Yeah. So my question is, and I've asked this before at Louisville, I don't know how many times, but it always seems to come back to me. My question is, how long did Eve sit and stare at that tree before she made her decision? When you read the Bible, you can kind of read it too fast to where everything happens in 10 minutes. Oh, God made Adam and Eve. Oh, God told them not to eat from this tree. And 10 minutes later, she ate it and the world was ruined. That's probably not how this went down. So my wondering is, how long did she sit and stare at that thing? How long did the words of Satan echo in her head? If you eat that, God knows you'll be more like him. How long? How many times did she pass by and have her gaze linger on that tree? Maybe it did happen in 10 minutes. But judging from human nature, I'm guessing probably not. She probably looked at that more than once, probably for increasing lengths of time. And what happened to Eve happens to many of us when we forget who we really are. Eve began to fade. The warnings of God in her heart began to fade. The fact of who she was began to fade as this desire for more than what she was intended grew and grew and grew. Until finally, without having kept that in check, she fell. Casting Crowns a number of years ago actually did a song called Slow Fade. I don't even remember. I'm not sure the exact title of the song. But we talked about it's a slow fade when you give yourself away. That's what the darkness is after. You ask how badly Satan had to hate her? Enough to watch her fade to the point of destroying herself. Some of you are experiencing a similar fade, where you're flirting just long enough with something, and it's on the edge of biting you. It's a slow fade. And Paul thought it was important enough to encourage the readers at Ephesus to stand against this. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. C.S. Lewis said, "You've never met a mere mortal. You've either met someone who will be an everlasting splendor or an eternal horror, but you've never met a mere mortal." So today, church, I want to remind you who you are. You are a child of God, and you need to stand up straight, and you need to plant your feet in the ground, and you need to see clearly where you are in life. Have you been victim of this sinister plot to get you to fade so that you will fall? Only you can answer that question. I hope that you'll step back and take a look. Peralt out.